Hey, superstars, thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Aaron Zakowski, and today I'm chatting with Scott Desgrosseillers. Scott is the CEO and founder of Wicked Reports, a marketing attribution platform that helps online businesses to measure each marketing channel's impact on sales. Scott also leads meditation groups for business teams and entrepreneurs. Hey, Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Aaron.
Fantastic. So just wanted, sorry?
I said I'm happy to be a guest on this podcast of yours and looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, super excited to have you finally. Would love to hear a little bit more about you and Wicked Reports and kind of what you do.
Sure. Wicked Reports is marketing attribution. And so that means we are trying to determine the effectiveness of your marketing, which becomes very challenging once you're doing more than one channel. Because believe it or not, the ad platforms are not always just trying to be the source of truth. They're trying to just report on how they're doing on the way they're looking at the world. And what we try to do is be your complete source of truth and look unbiased across everything you're doing to tell you where you should scale, where you should stop spending, and where it's not clear yet and you need to hang on.
All right. And having checked out your website, I kind of been following you for a couple of years now. So I know a big part of your market is e-commerce, but you work with a lot of SaaS clients as well, helping out with marketing attribution, right?
Yes, we have e-commerce, SaaS subscription companies. So anyone with recurring revenue, which of course is the foundation of SaaS, and information course marketers. Those are our big three. We do have a couple of one-off, two-offs of other industries or business models, but those are the three core things that people that we help the most.
All right. And tell me a little bit, how big is the company and specifically, how about your marketing team and all that? Because that's really what we're focused on here today.
Sure. So we have 14 on the team right now, and we're currently trying to hire 3 more. So anyone listening that does sales or marketing, we're looking for a middle funnel marketer and a customer service rep. And so I got started in 2015. It was just myself and one contractor that I really knew his stuff with PHP and front-end coding, and that was the database guy. And it just steadily grown each year to now where we're again 14 people, and then we still have on top of that, 5 or 6 contractors as well. So it's about 20-ish people that are worrying about Wicked Reports every day.
Okay.
And we get a diverse group of just approaching 2,000 users right now, and all different sizes. Generally, for our customer, it starts to become attribution becomes a problem once you get above like the $500,000 a year in revenue. That's when you're generally going to start having to use multiple channels, or you're going to have the wherewithal or budget to do multiple channels, and that's when things start to become murky potentially, and that's how we can help people out.
All right. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper just because, as we discussed before we started the podcast, attribution is just such a big issue that so many marketers have struggled with. I've spoken with companies from, $1 million range to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And they're all telling me that attribution is kind of one of the biggest challenges that they have. Do you mind just telling us a little bit, how does it work? Like, how do you track attribution, and what exactly is the way that, on a slightly more technical level, that Wicked Reports is actually going to help us to get that source of truth?
Sure. The approach that I took was more practical, even though I'm a stats finance guy by background. Rather than complicated models or fancy things that I do love to geek out on, it was more very practical business questions that I was trying to reverse engineer with all this data to get the answer. And all started, the origin story is it was an e-commerce client of mine, getmainelobster.com, which I was just doing some moonlight, just random CRM automation stuff on the side as a side hustle. And he was like, hey, Facebook doesn't work for Lobster. And I was like, why not? He's like, I spent all this money. I spent $4,000. I made one sale for $200. I lost my shirt. And I was like, I don't think that people are going to click and buy right away for a random lobster guy showing up on their feed. And so that led into our philosophy, which I didn't necessarily have at the time. Now I've grown to have one, which was, how can I prove ROI with transparent data that I can back up, that the business owner can understand without having to get into Bayesian or Markov models or cryptic time decay where I'm hiding all the data or trying to have them make sense of it, which was really challenging. And so what I found was that if you map attribution models to specific goals of what you're trying to do, it makes it much more actionable and understanding. And the way to do that, though, is that you have to not always use every touch point, which can get tricky unless this is all you do. I mean, this is all we do, so we know how to do it.
Yep.
So like in Mark's example, and a lot of people think about a SaaS business or the subscription, like, I mean, lots of times you're going to run ads for various things, but you're trying to maybe get people into your trial or to at least watch a demo or to do something maybe more top of the funnel. They're not just going to click in and just suddenly, our subscriptions start at $400. We never run an ad and say, hey, come sign up for Wicked Reports, $400, get started. That's like never the case.
Right.
We have like steps we have to take. And so, for example, how Wicked Reports works, one attribution model we have is new lead ROI. And so how that works is we're trying to use your incoming clicks, your CRM data, and our tracking scripts to figure out what is creating new leads from cold traffic, because that's the top of the funnel. That's almost like the crossover from top of the funnel to middle is, hey, they're willing to join my email list or opt in from my initial trial, whatever. They're no longer cold, and that's a tough thing to do. Get that opt-in, not everyone wants to hand.
I think I lost you there. Hey, Scott, you still
Emails
there?
and become.
I think we lost you there for a second. The Zoom cut out.
Oh, okay.
That's all right. Looks like you're back.
All right. So it's a big commitment for someone to become a new lead because you're opting in and you're saying, okay, I'm willing to get marketing from you. And so the way that we chose to handle that for attribution is we're going to show you what advertising has created a new lead, and then hold on to that point. And then look into your billing and your order systems automatically in the future. And then whenever any revenue comes from that particular contact, we're going to attribute it back to that particular point in time or that inbound click that created a new lead. Mm-hmm. And then you'll always know, hey, this new lead that eventually became hopefully high value customer, you'll have all the ROI on that point in time, so that you can start scaling cold traffic, even if it takes a while to convert, which even on a pure e-com play often takes 7 to 10 days. Our average is around 40 days it takes someone to close off across e-com. Mm-hmm. SaaS can be a lot longer. Wicked Reports, we're like 3 months, which drives me crazy. Of course, I want them, to be a week, but they're just not. So the long-winded way of, getting into the details here, which was that there's a need to know what turns cold traffic into new leads that eventually become high-value customers. So we have an attribution model specifically focused on that has all verifiable data, and we're creating the conversions for you from your source data. So you're not in there monkeying around with our version of Google Analytics or tracking tags. You're just like, we've mined the data to say, hey, this is a conversion, and we'll look across all your marketing inbound clicks from, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, email, whatever you're doing, organic, and figure out which deserves credit for the lead, and then, map revenue back to that.
All right. So you touched on it a little bit, but tell me a little bit in terms of, what's working for yourself. I mean, you've grown your company quite a bit from what I've been observing over the past few years that I've known your company. What's working today in terms of marketing for Wicked Reports?
We need content at the top. It's content at the top of the funnel before we ask for any email or anything, because we don't do free demos or trials, which is rare. But to us, we have a low churn rate because we want people committed to attribution. We're not trying to churn and burn or get people in and bait and switch them. We want to know people are in, and it's a very labor intensive thing we do at the beginning on our end so that our clients can just get data and take action. Mm-hmm. So we do content at the top. Then we retarget them to join our list for some reason. Could be straight to demo, 3-minute quick demo video, or just a PDF or action, instant video related to something like how not to waste ad spend, or top 10 e-commerce tips, insights. We've tracked a couple $1 billion now. So insights from the couple $1 billion, what we see working and not in terms of overall channel trends. And then once they're on our list and they've consumed that, then we're doing ads to drive to a sales call, which is a booked Zoom call like this, but it's one of my team. And then from there, then they all move into the, okay, let's try and get them to buy. So we have like a four-step funnel.
All right. And I guess based on the product, you're able to, any touch points where they're touching content even before they sign up, you're able to measure as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. And so our philosophy at Wicked Reports, which just kind of, what makes attribution more accessible and why people can stay and use it, is we don't try to show the impact of every single touch point, because sometimes it's debatable if you have like a 40 touch point journey. Were they all really equal? No, but is some more important than others? Yes. How you, for sure. And for us, it's we use CRM events mapped against inbound clicks. And so you can send us different CRM conversions and we detect a couple ourselves. And then we map different attribution models to those CRM events, and then revenue against them, against ad spend. So based on, in our case, like in our funnel, we have a middle funnel. Hey, what's driving sales calls? Well, that particular model is we have a CRM conversion of sales call that comes to us. And then we look across the ad spend to see in Wicked Reports, it'll show you which clicks led to the sales calls. And then if they end up buying, we have the revenue from the sales calls matched to the spend. And that's how we can scale it.
Amazing. Love it. And in terms of that process, you're all in-house team that's kind of running that for you?
Yes. So it's in-house team. We're very extensive with HubSpot. We use HubSpot Service. I think it's just called Service. And so we have a very elaborate knowledge base, but also we have live calls with our team. It's whatever the people need, really, that's going to make sure the steps are very easy. They do them. And then our team gets on and verifies them, or because attribution's been a challenge for so long, we don't want to assume anything. We want to verify all your data. And then there's an attribution health indicator to show what percentage of orders we're tracking. And if it's not trending up, then we know there's a problem. We do proactive outreach to make sure, hey, this, and this you should change or fix, or these ads aren't tracking, click here and do this. There's not that many different challenges to it, but people are busy. Maybe they didn't read something, or there's all sorts of new MarTech emerging every day that maybe we need to figure out how to track. So we try to be proactive on getting the tracking up, and then people understanding their customer lifetime value and their customer buying cycle before we even get to the attribution. So we have cohort reporting to show here's how valuable your leads are over time. Here's how valuable your customers are over time, to figure out the measurement period that you need to be using. So you come in and you expect Wicked Reports to make you rich in a week. Well, that's a bad expectation for any data tool, really. You need to gather data for a cycle and check it out. So our team is versed in that, and we drip out the content to, people can self-serve. And if they're speeding along, then we'll help assess the data and analyze it for them so they can make some data-driven decisions as fast as possible to get some ROI on their investment.
And from what I can see on your website, I guess your pricing starts about $400 a month. So LTV of I'm assuming you guys are pretty sticky once people invest in getting this going. So your LTV is probably pretty high. You can really afford to help people out and get a little bit hands-on to help them, decipher their data, right?
Yeah, our LTV is around $8,000 right now. So we can definitely invest in, if you come in at the bottom tier, the LTV is $8K. So we can put in the time, but yeah, because once you're there, that's the beauty of SaaS. As you grow, it becomes a real compound effect as long as people aren't going anywhere.
Right. So it sounds like content marketing being promoted by paid social is kind of really what's driving the growth right now in terms of top of funnel for you. Can you share if there's any marketing strategies or channels that you've tried in the past that just didn't work?
Running ads directly to our demo didn't work. Okay. And that could be that our page wasn't good enough. It's not, and that's what's interesting. The strategy is only as good as the ingredients, like a cook. So that's why it's always like, I can't say that that's a bad, that strategy I think can work quite well. It didn't work for us well. And our demo page wasn't really that great, was the problem. And I think in hindsight, but now content's working. Google search has been tough.
Okay.
The keywords we want to, marketing attribution's a really pricey keyword.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
Got some big
that's,
competitors.
yeah. And that one's been rough. What was the other one that wasn't that great? I think, and then the Facebook straight to demo. So trying to do Facebook cold traffic to the middle funnel. We had to do cold.
Yeah.
We had to do content first, then because our podcasts work real well for us. So when we do this podcast, right, then what we'll do is in our email sequence, everyone will get sent to the podcast. We know how to track people that are going to a place where we don't have our tracking script.
Right.
We already
have to click.
Yeah. So we can, we can still keep track of the people that way. And the podcasts, like the ones that in the past, those work really well. So
you're saying when you're a guest on a podcast, or do you have your own podcast?
Yeah. And then we drip it out to our own list. It tends to work well. And then we do in the Facebook ads, what we've been doing is that we sync up. So when the email goes out about the podcasts, it was like a podcast week in our workflow.
Mm-hmm.
It also shows podcasts in their Facebook feed. So it kind of syncs them up.
Nice. That makes sense.
And
tell me right now, in terms of the landscape of what else is out there, what other opportunities do you see for growth in terms of platforms or strategies, or kind of what are you thinking about for the next thing that you think about testing?
Well, one thing that's proven to be really good for us just recently, and it's because we had a record month in May, was I went through this positioning process on my own through a book I read called Obviously Awesome, April Dunford, who you should have on your podcast, by the way. She's a SaaS positioning expert.
I'll look her up.
Because I realized we had all this know-how, but there was no cohesive strategy pulling it together. So I read her book and I saw her speak and I was like, man, this is amazing. And so I went through the process myself. It took a while. It took like 30 hours to corral and figure out who are we really, because you normally hear positioning and you hear that value prop. There's like a little Mad Lib where you fill in the blanks. We do blank for blank,
right,
on others. Well, I always hated that thing and I couldn't put my finger on why. I just didn't like it. And then she spells out how to actually do it for SaaS. And so I went through this process and I realized, I don't like anything that we're doing now compared to my new positioning. So we overhauled the entire website. And since doing that, things are just like gangbusters. As much as I was like, you just need a paid funnel. Well, you need a paid funnel, but they're going to start sniffing around your site as part of the, consideration process. And once the website finally says exactly what I want, it's been incredible because people come in this is mostly for SaaS, this podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So as a SaaS, this is probably the best takeaway is to do this, because then we do the ads, we do the content, they're on the blog, and then they start poking around the menu. We can see all this with our HubSpot analytics, or GA, you could do it also. And, people spend a lot of time on the content if they're interested in the product. They devour the site. And so I architected the menus based on exactly how I would want people to read left to right. If I could have them read, get what we're all about.
Yeah.
And the demos are super high quality. People are close, it used to be 3-month close. People are closing now 6 weeks lately, which is great for us. And, business going through the roof. And this is, with things not even doing that hot. Website visitors are up like 20% per month in the month and a half since we've done it. It's gone way up. So, and the time bounce rates. So everything about that, these more like soft, as an attribution person, I like to say, what's the most important conversion and click. And this is more like subjective, right? You see all this time on the site, but the leads have just been the lead quality's been through the roof for us since we did this.
That's great. That's great. So tell me a little bit then. So it sounds like that's working. I'm definitely going to go have to, Google her after this ends and go learn some more.
I can intro you to her too. She's awesome.
Perfect. So tell me then, kind of in the marketing capacity, I know you're a founder and you got your fingers on a lot of things. What's your biggest challenge right now?
So our biggest challenge right now is middle of the funnel. So I go through this positioning and I'm like, oh no, I hate what we've been doing, even though we've been doing okay, obviously, but I still was like, it's just not good. So I started writing my own emails based on what I learned from the positioning. So I did like an email, Wicked Reports versus Google Analytics, or, you know, how to figure out when your leads break even. All these cool content pieces positioned the way like people that are into our stuff should love it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden bookings for the sales team going through the roof off the emails. Like I'm onto something. But then the challenge becomes getting the lead scoring right in HubSpot, and then automating all the workflows based on what they're consuming on the website or responding to in the emails, or what ad set they came in on, what their interests were, segmenting and scoring it all to optimize the new learnings from the positioning. That's challenging. Intellectually it sounds easy, but then when I thought I could just rip it off myself, it's not easy.
Yeah. I've been working on my own funnel for the agency, and it's a lot of work. Even when you think you figure it out, you start noticing it just kind of snowballs. And
yeah, it's the consistent discipline that, you know, probably part of what makes someone able to found stuff is not discipline to do repetitive tasks that are of high value, but you know, each week you got to kind of review the numbers, look at them, make decisions, have an hypothesis, test it, come back. And I start to let that stuff slide when things get too busy. And so I'm looking for someone specifically, a scientific middle funnel grounded marketer, not someone with crazy ideas and hacks. I want just like a methodical scientist.
Got it. We'll have to chat afterwards, see if I know anybody for you.
Yeah. I guess the other piece, so like, you know, one thing that I didn't answer fully was, what does our marketing team look like? So we have a content marketing team. We contract out with this content marketing firm, Codeless, who I love. And we have, you know, they have one or two writers assigned that can take my ideas or outlines, or they come up with their own, or I send them ideas and they turn them into finished product. They were tremendously helpful. Then we got people that help with pay-per-click. And then now I'm looking into who's going to do our LinkedIn and email outbound. We might hire in-house for that, or we might get some, because we've done a few, like a couple of those 8 people will outreach, you know, it's like $2,000. They're going to send a bunch of, you know, get you a bunch of conversations going, but right. It's a shady metric. It's like, oh, someone replies back and they say, oh, that's what you paid for. And I was like, we want book sales calls. I mean, charge me more, but I don't need someone going back and forth with, you know, chattering on LinkedIn Messenger isn't really real, in my opinion. So, right. So we have those. So then and then we have email copy I've been doing, like email broadcasts. And then we don't have someone tying it all together. So that's where our hole is also. Those are the 2 holes. It's like that.
So let me ask you, because it's something I've struggled with, you know, in terms of content creation. So you mentioned you're working with, you said it's Codeless, right? As the content creation agency. And I've worked with similar agencies to them to try and create content in the past. And, you know, being a paid ads agency, you know, we try to put out content that's relatively technical. We don't want to just kind of be creating fluff like a lot of the rest of the market is. And that gets difficult to outsource. People, and yours is quite technical as well in terms of how to use your product and measurement and attribution and the statistics and all the things that go along with it. How were you able to find success in outsourcing that writing process and still remaining, you know, pretty, you know, high level technical content there?
Yeah, that's so it does. You don't fully get to offload all of it at first, because they've got to onboard and, you know, get up to speed on, you know, and de-jargonize you and really learn your stuff. So it's not going to come in and happen in a week or 2. Mm-hmm. So at first it was a lot of, I have all this content or these webinars or these videos. I had a slew of content. I had a slew of content that needed, you know, shaping or cleanup or whatever. So they had a foundation to start. They weren't starting from a blank Google Doc and be like, okay, write me 5,000 words on whatever.
Got it. Okay.
But, so, and then there's some back and forth, you know, so it's like, hey, they would have some ideas and it's almost like a pitch meeting and we want to do this. And then I was like, okay, what about these things? It's a conversation you have, and then you have some work you have to do yourself to get the writers up to speed. And, you know, they have a couple writers and then they're figuring out which one really gets your stuff. So there's a process they have where they outline what they're going to do before they do it, so that you can say, oh yeah, this is awesome, or oh, this is boring, or somewhere in between. So it's a idea to outline is a key point before it's just like,
Right.
here's a couple 1,000-word
To
article.
make sure you prove that, right? All
But
right.
getting into the nitty gritty, yeah, I still had to. So when I realized I had to create some of that, I was like, I might as well just overhaul my whole knowledge base. If I have to do it for one person, I don't want to ever have to do it again. So my whole entire playbook is on our knowledge base now, which is something I've wanted for like 3 years. And I finally have. And it was kind of because I had to educate the content team.
Wow.
All right, I guess I'm stuck doing it. So
Fantastic. Listen, I'm sure that's paid off. Okay, great. Let's jump into the lightning round. We got 5 quick questions, and I'll hit you up with those. So the first question is, what's your family situation? Are you single, married, kids?
hold on one sec. Someone's decided to literally mow the lawn. I think it's not live. I was like, man, that long distance noise is getting closer.
Yeah, wow. It's all good.
Mowing his lawn here.
Well, I can't hear him anymore, so.
Okay. All right. Lightning round. I didn't hear what you said there.
All right, so lightning round. Your family situation, are you single, married, kids?
Married, 3 kids, ages 3 to 10.
All right.
And my wife works in sales at Wicked Report. So we're quarantined, homeschooling 3 kids, and we work together. If anyone would tell me that, I've been like, oh my God, that's going to be a disaster. But it actually has been.
And yet you've had your best month ever.
It's true.
Maybe that's the key. Don't change anything.
And if you're not aligned on everything, it's like you got nowhere to run right now, right? So you got to like really keep your powder dry.
All right. Tell me, what book would you recommend to our listeners, be it a business book or non-business book?
The Surrender Experiment.
All right.
It's a Michael Singer. I believe it was a New York Times bestseller, but I don't know. He was on Oprah Soul Sunday once. But it's he grew a SaaS, a medical billing SaaS.
Okay.
He had $1 billion acquisition, and he did it. He was a spiritual teacher at the same time. It's called Temple of the Universe, I think. I haven't been there or know much about that, but I read his book, and he got sick of hearing his own voice constantly liking or disliking things. So he said, I'm just going to surrender and go with whatever life offers me. And it's the whole autobiography journey of him going from a yogi in the woods to being on private jets and selling for $1 billion while still being a yogi in the woods with like a ponytail and, just surrendering constantly.
Wow.
It's incredible. For SaaS people, it's a fun story also once it gets to the SaaS part, because it's like, it's just a great story. Plus it's a spiritual, it's non-denominational, just interesting spiritual tactic to try out,
All right. And tell me, what's your favorite marketing productivity tool right now?
I don't think I have one. My favorite. Probably HubSpot.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah, we use it to its full potential. I mean, we use every module they have.
Okay. And who's your favorite marketer to learn from right now? Who are you listening to?
April Dunford is my favorite.
Okay, right. We mentioned her before. And what's your favorite online website or community that you're participating in?
Pat's Pulpit, which is a New England Patriots fan site.
All right. That's not one I've heard before. That's great. Okay.
And fans on there, but it's just, yeah.
Okay. And tell me, where can listeners go to learn more about you?
wickedreports.com, the brand new website, has everything you'd want to know.
All right. And I'll throw out, I've gone through a demo with one of your salespeople actually in the past and was blown away by it. I definitely recommend that our listeners go check it out and go for a demo themselves and see if it fits for your SaaS, because I think it's worthwhile.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. Awesome. Anyways, Scott, this has been great. I thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great episode, and I know our listeners are going to learn a lot from it. And I thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me. Take it easy.
Definitely.